So now I would like to introduce the who we're here to see, the speaker that we're here to see, which I'm really excited about. Sabrina Feuerherd is joining us today to talk about better service design through digital-ready legislation. And Sabrina is a service designer with digital service, which is, I have to make sure I get everything right. So I've got paper in front of me. Digital service is the team, the group, the organization that develops digital solutions for and with the German federal government, German federal administration, right? Yes. She's also previously worked at HP Command and SI Labs, or Service Innovation Labs, which are huge, very popular quality, can't think of words today, or agencies here in Berlin. Most people have probably heard of them or have tried to work there. And Sabrina's going to give us a first-hand account of how she's brought this service design knowledge into this new team, Digital Service, and give us a first-hand account of how they actually make digitalization happen, how they make innovative services with the German federal government, and how that actually works really inside the team and inside working with the government. And she'll also guide us through an interactive session at the end, or maybe it's not at the end, maybe it's like in the middle, where we will all be able to step into the shoes of what it's like to actually be the people, the person who decides, who makes those legislative decisions and writes the laws, and we'll be able to step into the shoes of those people, of what it's like to be those people and how to make those laws and services more digital ready. So without further ado, Sabrina, welcome to the stage and looking forward to hearing from you. Thanks, Sabrina.
Thank you so much. Yes. Hello, everybody. I hope you're feeling well today. Can you hear me well in the back? Perfect. Good to hear. So can I get a show of hands? Who is a service designer or UX UI designer? Okay, wow, nice. Who works in, for, or with the public sector? Okay, a little bit less. And who has been using a public service lately? Keep your hands up if this service was digital. Okay, not so much. We're not running out of work yet. That's great to see. So, hi, I'm Sabrina Feuerherd, and I'm a service designer at Digital Service. And today I want to tell you about how we can ensure better service design through digital-ready legislation and actually better legislation through service design. I'm going to explain all of this to you later, so don't worry. We at Digital Service develop digital solutions for and with the federal administration, as you already so nicely put it. And we, while doing that, put the needs of the citizens at the heart of it all. And we want to design services that work better for everyone. So our work while we're doing that is interdisciplinary, user-centered, and iterative. So if you were already here in the last service design drinks, you might have seen this, this pyramid that the team from PwC presented, this diagram of the design levels. And at the top is very quickly here how things look, the visual design. Then one level underneath is how things feel, experience design, then how things work, how things are delivered. And then right at the bottom is how what things are done, which is the policy design. And this is what we are going to have a look at today. And this is what really influences everything above this. So why is this important? Currently, there's a disconnect between the focus set by the government and the focus set by the users and the users of these governmental offerings. And for the government, the policy is important, the policy that they set. And not so much how the services look later, where which the policies which are built upon these policies, sorry. And for the users, exactly the opposite is true. So for the users, the service is really the important thing, not so much the policy that is being written. And we don't really care so much about these policies. What we really want to do as users is reach our goals, right? So actually, I bet pretty much every one of you here in this room has had first-hand experiences with lack of digitalization of open sector services. Maybe you wanted to change your city of residence, or you wanted to apply for a residence parking permit, and then you pretty much very soon noticed that it's very hard to do in a digital manner, and online is not that easy to do. So what is really important to know is that laws and services are very much connected. For example, if you want to get a student loan, there is a law stating the rules for this, the Federal Training Promotion Act. And if you want to design a service around it, you need to understand the law and follow the rules set by the law. If you want to get parental benefits, there's a law stating the rules for that. The law on parental allowance and parental leave. If you want to submit a property tax declaration, this has been all over the news, there is a law stating the rules for that. The law on the reform of real estate tax and valuation. I have to read it because it's so long, the name. So that means we really need digital-ready laws to design user-centered digital services. But how do we get digital-ready laws? Lately, we hear a lot about the status of digitalization of government services in Germany. It's been all over the news. Recently, the federal government published an all-new digital strategy, starting they call it digital decade. And there's also the online access law, the Onlinezugangsgesetz, which you might have heard of, which aims to bring almost 600 governmental services online by the end of the year. Yes, yes, I know, not everything works perfectly, but things are moving in the right direction, right? There are a multitude of factors that actually condition seamless digitalization in Germany. One we want to take a closer look at today. So we need digital-ready legislation. But what does that even mean? It means that we want to help the people writing the laws and deciding about them make decisions with digital factors in mind. Which means while they write the law, they already think about what the implications of it on the digitalization later will be. And by the way, if you don't know that, that's totally fine. People who write the laws are called legislators, in German Legistinnen. Of course, if you want to change something, you need to understand how it works. In this case, that meant we needed to understand how laws are being written today. We needed to understand how laws are made, how they are written and rewritten, who influences them, and then how are they passed after writing. To answer these questions, we had interviews with these legislators, Legistinnen, and mapped the process in a service blueprint. Our assumption in this research stage was that legislation is a fixed linear process and at the end of which there is a successful law. We pretty quickly realized that this is not the case, and there's not the one way a law is made, but a multitude. So depending on factors like the field of the law, the urgency of the topic, or the mindset of the people involved. So legislation is a multitude of possible processes at the end of which there is a successful or unsuccessful law. So then we went ahead and changed the service blueprint into a service landscape to show which steps can happen simultaneously and which have to happen one after another. So let's zoom in a bit and have a look at this slide to show you very quickly how a law is made. Here in the beginning, this is in German, by the way, don't worry. Here at the beginning, this is where a legislator gets the Auftrag or the calling, you have to write this law. And then afterwards, they make research, and they look at which other laws exist out there which influence these laws, influence it that I'm writing. What is the material I have to look at? What is important for this law? Then they start writing it and rewrite it and get some feedback from their ministry. And then they rewrite it again. And here at this point, there's a Normenkontrollrat. And the Normenkontrollrat then checks if the law is digital ready or not. So, but there's I hear this sounds weird. So there's a lot of potential to look at digitalization before this point, right? If this here, right in the beginning, there are a lot of steps where you can think digital already. And most importantly, early on. So from our interviews with legislators, we were able to identify 5 focus areas. Let's call them cornerstones of digital-ready legislation. Let's go through these. So number 1, a law has to find clear rules. The law has to be consistent, unambiguous, and clear. This means it should be written as easily understandable as possible. It should have only have exceptions if strictly necessary, and it should be clear when defining a term. An example comes to mind that I want to share is when you work with the property tax declaration law, you will find the term economic entity, which states who has to submit this tax declaration. And this term is new, and it has never been defined before. And it has not been defined in this law, which makes it really hard to design a service around that. And B, citizens don't really know if it applies to them and if they have to do 1 tax declaration or 2 tax declarations, and that is all very messy. This could have been avoided. Number 2, establish digital communication. This means the law must make it possible to communicate digitally, not like having to go to the citizens' office anymore or signing a contract on paper. Example is the Evidence Act, the Nachweisgesetz, which requires all employment contracts to be signed on paper since this year, which I really hope they turn it around, turn it around again. Number 3, the law should enable reuse of data and standards. For example, at the moment, citizens who own property need to make this property tax declaration that I've already talked about. And a super big pain of a lot of people is that they are required to get specific data on their plot of land or the property they own. And they have to get this data from one register, like get it from the internet, from a register, then type it into their declaration manually, and then transfer it. And they really rightly ask the question, why is this not connected? Why is it so complicated to do this? Why it's already there? Why can it not be transferred? Number 4, the law has to ensure data protection and security. This means that not only the data has to be handled securely, but also one thing to keep in mind, the safest data is the one that never has to be handled. So if you don't ask for data, it cannot be malhandled. Legislators should think about which data is really necessary. And number 5, the law should support the possibility of automated processes. For example, the law for basic child security states that every month, money is automatically paid out to every child. This means that parents don't have to check if they're applicable, nor do they have to fill out forms. But what you need to design, of course, are processes that check who is a child actually, how many children are there, who is one, who is too old to be a child, how to get the money to the children, set up these automated transfers, etc., etc. You get the idea. So two other things that legislators should consider while writing a law is, did they take the needs of those affected into account? For example, citizens, of course, organizations, companies, and was the professional perspective involved early? This could be IT perspective, legal perspective. If they keep all of these in mind, we should be great to go, right? So we need digital-ready legislation to pass digital-ready laws, to design user-centered digital services. Now, how do we get digital-ready legislation? We have these rules I just showed you. It should be easy, right? They still have to work. So we need to test them with the legislators, and we need to enable legislators to work with them, really. Three of the aspects that we test, or the questions that we are testing, is how complete are these rules? Are we missing something? Do they have to be worded differently, maybe? Then second, how are the legislators working with the rules? They need to understand the rules, and they need to understand the impact they have later. And then third, what else need legislators to write this digital-ready law? Do they need methods? Do they need a small tool set, maybe? And do they need trainings or something like a digitalization buddy, for example? To test a topic this abstract, we need to make it more tangible. So we are not only testing the rules and how are they understood by the legislators, but we also zoom into concrete use cases, laws that are being written right at this moment, and test it with them, the people who write these laws right at the moment. Try out methods. And then we take these insights back, zoom back out, reiterate on the rule set. So we are always zooming in and out between these two levels and keep one level in mind while we work on the other. So I guess you know what's coming. To design user-centered digital services, we need to pass digital-ready laws. And for that, we need digital-ready legislation. And for that, we need digital-ready mindsets. This is really like this one. You all know this one. So there, the forces act from the first to the last element and back again. And that is exactly how this works. I know this was a lot of input. Now let's work on something. We want to go back to our rules / cornerstones from earlier and combine them with a concrete example. This here is our digital-ready legislation canvas. We are currently testing this. You will be a bit of test rabbits today. And every team, maybe 4 to 5 people sitting around one table, maybe. You can get together in groups of 4 or 5 people. You will get one canvas, and every canvas has one case, one law case, very simple in 1 or 2 sentences in the middle. And I will give you 15 minutes to reflect on this law and think about these rules and what this implies. You don't need to fill out the rule 1. This would be too much for today, but have a look at 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then the 2 at the bottom. And I will go around and ask questions if there are any. So 15 minutes, one canvas per team. Alrighty. So now, if you're interested in what we are doing and how we are working, and you say, "Whoa, I want to join this. I want to join you," then actually we are looking for our first senior user researcher. Come and find me or Martin afterwards, or actually everybody who works with us. Can you raise your hands, please? There in the back are some. Yes, perfectly. Find us afterwards. And thank you so much. Or go to our website.
Thank you so much, Sabrina. This definitely, I hadn't seen any of this before, and it really opened my eyes to how the services, the things that we all experience, how many steps and years and months of time probably beforehand go into these government services ending up the way that they do, and how much impact we could have as service designers if we change the way that legislation happens and that those rules happen. I really didn't know what I was going to see today, and this is really powerful. And if I was a user researcher, I would apply to work in this team. But we'd love to have, we've got a little bit of time to have some questions, and then Sabrina's going to also stay around at the end if you want to talk to her personally as well. But I'd love to have a few questions from people. What did you think about this whole information that for me was very eye-opening to see how things happen, this framework, this way of, imagine if you were a lawmaker, a legislator, using a framework like this. What questions do you have about this framework or anything? And who has, yeah, first question here.